Welcome back to the channel, football fans, and we are exactly one calendar week away from professional football. It may only be the Hall of Fame game, but I'll take what I can get right now. Now, that is not the topic of discussion today. What is the topic is the AFC South quarterback situation, at least the ones we currently have data on. Now, we'll get this right out of the way. I'm not really going to talk about Cam Ward at all for the Tennessee Titans right now, and that's because we have no pro numbers to go on when it comes to Cam Ward. It's really hard to translate things from the college level to the professional level, so I just don't see much value in really trying to figure out exactly how he fits into the equation because there's just no data. Now, the quarterbacks we do have data on, there are 4 of them. They are the potential starters. Now, I would argue there's no chance outside of injury that Trevor Lawrence does not start for the Jaguars. That's obvious. Same thing with CJ Stroud. Outside of injury, there's zero chance that anybody else starts. However, that's not true of the Indianapolis Colts, who have 2 quarterback options, and we're not quite sure yet who is going to be starting, and I think a lot of that is going to depend on how not only training camp, but obviously the preseason games go for the Colts. Now, fortunately, all 4 of these quarterbacks played in the past 2 NFL seasons on their various teams. So I went ahead and combined those 2 seasons into one stat pile, and looking at the last 2 seasons, there's some interesting trends that show up in the numbers here. So if we were going to actually be picking these quarterbacks in ranked order right now, as it stands over the last 2 seasons, CJ Stroud is obviously the top quarterback you would want to be picking there. He has the most games played, so he's durable. He has the most pass yards, the highest yards per attempt, the highest yards per game, the highest number of touchdowns. All those things are there. He's right mid-pack with interceptions, but CJ Stroud in the throwing game has absolutely dominated compared to the other 3 options for the Colts and the Jaguars to be rolling with. Now, if you were looking for exclusively a running quarterback, then Anthony Richardson is your guy. Unfortunately for the Colts, his throwing numbers are atrocious. So he has 13 interceptions, though he's only played 15 games. So really, that's where the absolute numbers sort of trick you. If you doubled his games, he's on pace to be throwing 26 interceptions, which is above where CJ Stroud is. So, okay, interceptions not actually playing to his favor. If you look at completion percentage, it's 50%. Like, you have to be able to complete more passes in today's NFL than 50% to win games. So he's really not a viable throwing option, at least in his last 2 seasons. Now, Daniel Jones does offer some hope in the passing game for the Colts. He tends to be a little bit better when it comes to completion percentages, but still, same sort of thing with interceptions. It looks really good at first glance, but when you double his games, because he's only played in 16 of those, suddenly his interception rate is actually a little bit higher. And then Trevor Lawrence kind of sits in a weird middle ground. Like, Trevor Lawrence is definitely a better passer than Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson have been over the past couple of seasons. He has way more yards, way more touchdowns. He has a competitive completion percentage when you're looking at CJ Stroud's numbers and Daniel Jones's numbers. So NFL-wide, like, he has a competitive completion percentage. The problem is his record just hasn't been great. Since the Jaguars started 2 seasons ago, something like 8-3, and then Christian Kirk got hurt in that Bengals game. Trevor Lawrence got hurt in the Bengals game, though didn't knock him out for the rest of the season. It did sort of seem to slow him down. The weapons being hurt plus his own injuries, hopefully that is sorted out and he can kind of get back to that period where he was playing really, really great football from the second half of his second season all the way through the first half of that 3rd season. So hopefully Trevor Lawrence can get back on track there. If we're looking at where we sit as far as who are good NFL options, CJ Stroud obviously is a great NFL option. He's young, he's showing progression, he has decent numbers, and the expectation is he continues to progress. We fully expect that. Trevor Lawrence is an interesting one because he's a very highly paid quarterback now, and he has a lot of talent. He has a very high ceiling. However, his decision-making has been questionable over the past couple of years, so there's a lot sort of riding on this season. Can the Jaguars get him pointed back in the right direction? Can Liam Cohen do for Trevor Lawrence what he seemingly has done for Baker Mayfield? And if he can, Trevor Lawrence is going to be rocketing up the tier list of quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, as far as the Colts go, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, I don't think there's a lot of hope there as far as finding long-term solutions. On the one hand, Anthony Richardson is still very young, so he does have a lot of potential to grow, but I don't know if there's going to be that level of patience for him, especially considering just how bad he has been in the passing game as a pro. As far as Daniel Jones goes, it's really straightforward. If he does not win the starting job, and even if he does but is not successful as the starting quarterback for the Colts, he's not going to stick around because he's had some time with the New York Giants and it hasn't panned out there, and the Colts are just not going to have a whole lot of patience for him. It's going to be a bit of a Carson Wentz type of a situation with him. If he's not taking the Colts to the playoffs year one, then they're probably moving off him. My gut with that is that the Colts are going to give Anthony Richardson one more chance. And I think if he can get healthy and be healthy for the start of the season, the Colts are likely to roll with him because of how short the leash would have to be with Daniel Jones. If you start Daniel Jones week 1 and things go poorly for 2 or 3 weeks and you start out 0-2 or 0-3, that experiment is over and you're now switching back to Richardson, but putting him into a tough scenario where he was sort of demoted from the starting role, and then you're not even giving him time to study. So I feel like the move for the Colts, if he can get healthy enough to play, is to play Anthony Richardson and then give him a little bit longer of a leash, maybe 5-6 games. And if things are going okay, you stick with him. But if things have gone off the track, then you switch over to Daniel Jones. But I don't think anyone in the NFL right now is really looking at those two as the definite future of the Colts. There could be a future there, but no one's looking at them the same way that I think most are still looking at Trevor Lawrence, where Trevor Lawrence is viewed as the Jaguars quarterback, and that's not going to change this season and likely not to change at the end of this season, even if they don't quite make the playoffs. Really, it would take a terrible season where he plays all year, but the team is terrible and he's terrible for the Jaguars to move off of Trevor Lawrence. That kind of long rope is not going to be given to the Colts quarterback options. So needless to say, the quarterback situations across the AFC South are fascinating. The Titans have a rookie, top draft pick, so people are going to have eyes on him. The Colts could be completely tumultuous, could be a surprise in store there, so there's going to be some eyes there. Trevor Lawrence is sort of on a redemption tour, so there's eyes there. The only one that I think is actually a little bit boring might be CJ Stroud, who I think is expected to kind of just continue taking those incremental steps forward up the tiers of the NFL quarterbacks. I think some people are hopeful that he makes his way into that sort of so-called elite tier this season. I don't know if that's going to happen. Certainly if he doesn't make any more progression than he did in his sophomore campaign, that's not going to be the case. But still, making slow and steady progress, I think, is what the Texans are looking for. Because keep in mind, at his current playing level, the Texans are already a playoff team. So if they can get that slow and steady gain from CJ Stroud, the Texans are in really good shape for the future. So I do want to turn it back to all of you. I do want to know your general thoughts on the AFC South quarterback situations, any of them, whether it's the Titans, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Texans, any of them. They're all kind of interesting in their own way. So let me know your thoughts down below. Otherwise, we have football here in about a week. We get some preseason action and we can start to actually dissect what's happening in real football games. So we're very excited for that. And I'm Shane. I'll see you guys all in the next video.